Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel this week. We've got a different episode for you. This week we're going to be talking about the Leica M5, the ugly duckling of the M series cameras. Now, I got to tell you, this camera was part of my father's estate and I got it when he passed along. And I used it for a long time. I used it for probably, well, I guess a long time is probably not a good way of putting it, but I used it from about 1974 or 5 until 1978, somewhere in that range. So not really a long stretch of time, but I got to tell you, it was what got me into my business, which is photojournalism, and I learned to love it. And the biggest reason, I guess, is because of the meter that was in it. And, you know, the M6 came along after this camera was dropped down the menu a bit because of its poor sales, and then the M4 came out again, and then the M6. And the M6, it's a great camera, there's no doubt about it. But this camera is great in its own right, and we're going to talk about a few of the things that I like about it, and a few of the things that you need to watch out for if you're going to purchase one used. So, I got to tell you, the first thing that I ran into with this camera is that it was difficult finding someone to fix it correctly. Coming from an interview that or not an interview, but really a YouTube video that I viewed, they mentioned some guy out in Oregon and they had a great experience with it, so I sent it out there and I had a really bad experience with it. The camera came back and a few things were not working the way they should, and the meter was messed up. It just didn't work. So I sent it to Golden Touch out in Camel Hall, New York. That's Sherry Krauter. She'd done some work for me in the past, and I got to tell you, came back top notch. Not an issue at all. My meter, come to find out, the previous person that tried to fix this, and what they did is they created a short in the camera, and it took her quite a while to trace it down, but she finally found it and it came back working perfectly, and it's working perfectly now. I'm going to show you a little bit about a few of the things that you need to watch out for when you buy this camera used, because it's a tricky beast, and there's only a few places that will really do a good job of this. One of them is Sherry Krauter, Golden Touch up in Camel Hall, New York, and the other one probably is DAG. Now, I'm not sure, I don't think you can get this camera fixed at Leica, but maybe you can, I don't know. I've never really approached them about it. But really, what needs to be done immediately as soon as you buy one of these things is you need to do what? Get a CLA done on it and have it inspected and looked at and make sure the meter is working correctly. But there is a problem with the meter, and that is that the battery is made for a 1.35 volt, and they don't make those anymore. But they do make an adapter for it, but I had this converted over to 1.5, and it's interesting, I got it back from Sherry with a battery that's a little bit too big for it. It's a Varta battery, which doesn't work in this camera. You can't close the battery cover. So I put I found some other ones that are smaller, a little bit smaller, not as deep, and they work just fine. So after you get a CLA done on this camera, it's going to come back fully adjusted. So the rangefinder is going to work perfectly, and everything should be all lined up, because sometimes they'll get out of adjustment and need to be adjusted. And I don't suggest you do that yourself. I suggest you find someone good to make the adjustments for you. Now, this camera is a little bit different. The meter up here, the adjustment for the ISO. There's a little reminder dial here, which everybody's kind of familiar with. And the best thing about this camera is that the rewind on it is so much easier than my M3. It's kind of like, in a way, it's like the M4, but it's on the bottom. So as you can see here, it's on the bottom, and it's awesome. I mean, the bottom still opens up the way it is, the way it normally should. And I'm going to show you how to load this camera properly. I found it very easy to roll film, load it, and the loading is much easier as well. Actually, it's probably about the same as the M4, but my M3 is completely different. As you can see here, the bottom plate opens up the same way, and then there's a diagram on the bottom that shows you how to load the film in. Now, to take up spool, you might need to advance it a little bit to get it into that position, but it's just a minor thing. As you can see, it's really easy to
get the film into place and push it down, and then close the back cover after you've advanced the film a little bit. I usually try to advance the film more than just one, maybe another advance. I just didn't do it in this case. But then you can close up the back cover and advance it one more time, click the shutter, and you're ready to go.
Now, there's various different models of this camera. Now, when it first came out in 1971, it was a two-lug model, as you can see right here. It's got two lugs, and they're on the side, mounted on the side. Very different, so the camera hangs like this. And I carried on my left-hand side with the lugs like that, because if it's over here, I can't, I don't know, I don't feel like I'm pulling it up right. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. They discovered that that was a problem with people, so they put another lug over here. So there's a 3-lug model and a 2-lug model. This is the 2-lug model right here. And of course the frame selector switch over here. And you can test to see if the battery's working. Yeah, it looks like it's draining a little bit. But it goes all the way over to a little notch when you pull it all the way over like that. It's kind of cool. So that's how you test the battery, make sure the battery's working great. And it's what I started out with, so I really like shooting film. The problem is that we're not making prints directly from the negatives. You can get that done, but it's gotten so much easier to do it. And I'll tell you, the biggest reason is I got a lot of it. I got a lot of film stored in my refrigerator. I got a bunch of C41 film and a bunch of E6 film, and I really want to go through it. And I decided to see what I could do. I remember what it was like when I was back in the news industry when we were shooting Fuji Press 400. We would process it with our wing lens processor, and then we would scan it ourselves and adjust it a little bit, tone it in Photoshop. So basically what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be shooting the film, and I'm going to be sending it off to a place in New York called the Nice Film Club. Now, for me, it's $99 a year. I'm not sure if it's still at $99 a year, but I'm going to put a link down below so you can check it out yourself. I'm going to give you a little short demo of it here anyway. So here we go. We're going to go to the Nice Film Club New York. It's called nicefilmclub.com. And the first thing I do is I open it when I get notification that my film is done. What I do is the first thing I do is I open up a contact sheet. And it shows you the whole contact sheet here. And the other thing you can do is you can download this contact sheet, which is really cool. So what I'll do is I'll go in here and I will look at these images one by one. And you can scroll down here, bottom right. I think you can also hit the arrow key. And I just go through them and look and find which ones I want. But what you can do is you can download all of them all at the same time. So I'm going to go back where I was, and I'm going to hit this little button right here, the download button, and it's going to download all of my images from that roll on in a zip file. So you just pull that zip file over and undo the zip file, and what you're going to get is you're going to get a folder with all the images in it. Now you can go and you can do whatever you want. I put it into Lightroom and then rename them.
Now it's pretty amazing to me that these images came out so well. I'm really surprised and really happy with the way they came out, because it's almost like there wasn't any fogging at all. They were perfect. Exposed them at ISO 200 and everything came out just fine. And as you can see here, shadows are nice, and boy, the highlights are controlled. And all I do is just a little bit in Lightroom, and that's just about it. And I think they came out awesome.
So one of the things I want to do with shooting the film and bringing it full circle back into my Fuji workflow is that I want to develop some film simulation recipes based off of the film that I've shot. So we're going to get some outdated Fuji Press 400, some Fuji Press 800, some E100, and some Actachrome 100 VS. So maybe I'm gonna get some really, really interesting film simulation recipes out of this. And how I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna shoot my Fuji with raw files at the same time I'm shooting the film, so that I can pull the raw file into X-Raw Studio, Fuji X-Raw Studio, and I can sit there and mess around with it, trying to get it to look the same. Now, what I'm gonna do with the scanned files, the scanned film files in Lightroom, is I'm gonna do a basic toning. So protect the highlights, protect the shadows, and if the white balance is really off, it might have something to do with the film and the processing. So I'm gonna try not to mess with it too much. I don't like stuff that's overly yellow, so I'll probably knock down the yellow a little bit, and I'll try to get them the way I want them. Now, of course, this isn't gonna be exactly what I see with these scan negatives, but it sure is gonna be a lot of fun, so I'm gonna try and do that. So really the biggest reason here for shooting film is it costs money. You might say, well, it costs money, so why would you do it? You know, shooting digital costs hardly anything. Well, the biggest reason is because it slows you down, makes you think about every shot, because every single frame costs money, and it makes you slow down and think about what you're doing, and I think it's a much more enjoyable experience. I really enjoyed shooting film, and it was a magical experience for me. And I did it for so many years and processed it, as soon as I shot it, it was a lot of fun. So that's it for this week's episode, and I wanted to, show you my M5 and how proud I am of still having it. And it's been cleaned up, and it's just great. I can't wait to go shoot some film with it. And it's my dad's camera. My dad didn't get to use it that much before he passed away, and I'm glad that I was able to start my career with it. So thank you for watching today's video. I had a lot of fun talking about the film camera and how you yourself can go find a Leica M5, and actually any Leica M body. You really need to get it CLA'd or clean, lubricated, and adjusted before you go shoot any film with it, because it probably is a little bit off. So I hope you like this episode, and please, if you wouldn't mind, give me a like and subscribe and comment. That would be awesome. And share the video too, that would be great. So remember, it's not what you photograph, it's how you photograph it, and we'll catch you next time.